When you marry, you expect to be loved, honored, cherished, just like they promised on your wedding day. However, so many Christian couples go home feeling married and alone. They can feel they have experienced what we call a bait and switch. You promised me this, but I got this. They try harder and harder, thinking that maybe they can do something or that they did something wrong and they can be part of the solution and try to fix it. Their spouses might even campaign that they are the problem. And so they try this and they try this and they chase some elusive goal. But even if they arrive, they find themselves unloved. Welcome to Healing Time, and here we believe that you are the solution for not only yourself, but for those around you. Today's topic is one very near and dear to my heart. I have seen thousands of couples over my 35 plus years of counseling. And when someone in the marriage is feeling married and alone, it's one of the most painful things you can experience. When you marry, you expect to be loved, honored, cherished, just like they promised on your wedding day. However, so many Christian couples go home feeling married and alone. It can even start on their wedding night or their honeymoon. They can feel they have experienced what we call a bait and switch. You promised me this, but I got this. They try harder and harder, thinking that maybe they can do something or that they did something wrong and they can be part of the solution and try to fix it. Their spouses might even campaign that they are the problem. And so they try this and they try this and they chase some elusive goal. But even if they arrive, they find themselves unloved. This is all going on as they try to raise a family or work hard as a man or a woman to support their family. And they come home to no touch, no connection, no romance, little to no affection. And they are expected to function as if everything is normal and pretend to the world and to the church and to their family that everything's just okay. This is the pain of being married and alone. You see, their spouse is struggling with something we call Intimacy-Anorexia. And also, you can find this information in the DVD, The Sin of Withholding. We talk about that. This is a sin, but it's a flesh pattern. We call it Intimacy-Anorexia. It's the active withholding of spiritual, emotional, and sexual intimacy. And let me explain this to you because probably the first time you've heard this idea. And it's a phrase that I've coined, and it's a flesh pattern that I've seen in Christian marriages. And this being married and alone is so very painful. I can't tell you how many tears are literally on my cement floor in my office from being married and 10, 20, 30 years and feeling unloved, feeling unimportant, feeling uncherished, and not feeling that organic connection with the other person. It's so hard. But these are the characteristics. So once you maybe get a pen or just count on your finger if you or someone you know have these characteristics. Because once you get this information, God's going to start sending people to you who might have this problem, and you might need to be able to have this information. And also, as I talk about this, you might identify yourself or your sister-in-law or your brother-in-law or your next-door neighbor or the girl who cuts your hair, that they've told you, gosh, I feel so alone in my marriage, and you could be a solution. So please continue to pay attention to this. Number one, the intimacy anorexic will stay so busy that they will have no time for you. They're fine being busy with church or neighbors or friends or political stuff. But when it comes to you, you don't feel dated, pursued, quality time together. You don't feel that. Number two, they blame you for all the issues in the marriage. Every time a problem comes up, you're the problem. You don't hear, I'm wrong, I'm sorry, I take responsibility for that, I caused that. You don't hear that. If you've not heard I'm wrong or I'm sorry and you're in a Christian marriage, I'm sorry, the Holy Spirit convicts me of sin regularly, And so if they're not getting convicted of sin inside of a marriage, that's a real problem, okay? Also, they withhold love, especially the way you like to be loved. If you like touched, you're untouched. If you like gifts, they don't buy you. And if you like quality time, they don't give it to you. Especially the way you like to be loved. It seems that they starve you. And you've told them, if you would do this or we could do this, I would feel loved, wanted, and cherished. And you're like, I'm giving you a map, but they won't follow it. They withhold love. They withhold praise. Now, they'll put their arm around you publicly. They might say how wonderful you are at the Sunday school or in other settings, social settings. But when you come home, you're not hearing you're amazing, you're fantastic, you're wonderful, I love you, you're awesome, you're skilled, you're intelligent, you're patient, you're gracious. You're not hearing the praise. It's silence. They withhold spiritually. They might be a deacon, a pastor, they might be the missions director, but when they come home, they're not praying with you on a regular basis. I'm not talking about over food. I mean praying with you. They may not be reading the word with you. They might talk a spiritual game, but you don't feel like we are having a spiritual relationship. Next, they can withhold sexually. Now that shows up in a couple ways. One, not being sexual, not initiating sexuality, or being disconnected during sexuality, or making you feel like you're needy if you want to be sexual. Okay, it's a painful thing to withhold in that area, especially in a marriage. There's no other place you can go, and so you definitely feel alone. They're unwilling or unable to share their feelings with you. You don't have these emotional conversations, okay? They could have ongoing or ungrounded criticism of you, and you'll hear it. It's kind of this background noise, and you feel like you're just not enough, you're not measuring up, and that's not the way you should feel in marriage. They might control or shame around money issues, but that's kind of a smaller one. They tend to control with anger or silence, and the silent treatment is brutal. And what we're talking about really is neglect. It's the opposite side of abuse, but it's on the same continuum, okay? And also, you can feel like a roommate. If you've told yourself, gosh, I feel so alone, I feel like a roommate, you definitely want to keep watching what we're talking about here. Now, if you or your spouse or someone you know has 5 of these characteristics that you wrote down, or you might need to go back, okay? You're probably living with an intimacy anorexic, and you might feel married and alone. And it doesn't matter if they're male or female, Christian, non-Christian. This goes across all that. Intimacy anorexia is real whether you're saved or you're not saved. I've counseled many Christians living, or should I say surviving, in this situation. And if you're married and alone, you're in real pain. And often pain you don't have a language or even words for. And you feel like nobody would even believe you because everyone else thinks they're Mr. or Mrs. Wonderful, and yet you feel starved and so alone and so disconnected. You are not alone in your church. There are several people struggling like you are, but they are silently experiencing the same pain as you. And that is why Healing Time, we're trying to equip the church with these secret pains, these things that are not spoken about, that need to be healed. That is why you can get this material. You can start healing yourself, yes, but you can also heal others in your church. And you can be a solution. You can break these chains. You can start helping heal these wounds of being married alone.